But anyway, I guess I'm just going to be showing the breadth of my self-hatred by going into a conversation about Abby Shapiro. But first... This thing, this thing, made by Fun with Irrelevant, and I just want to die. I look at this thing and my brain stops wanting to be. I guess I should probably do this a little more healthily. I should frame it as when you do X, I feel X. So when you make coins, I feel dead. You a masochist, yes. Well, next one we have here is from, I cannot pronounce that as that is written in Japanese, it looks like. Said, I pretty much joined the server to post fan art. I'm not very good at drawing, but I use Hero Forge a lot for D&D. I took the artistic liberty of adding a heart frame and a penguin. There is a penguin there. He is a lad, and he will survive the third impact. The last one we have here is from Axolotls with Cream. Said it's done. 1 card down, 1 to go. And this is, of course, the altar of Adrix and Nev that Axolotls and Cream has worked on. And I do actually have a physical copy of this for fun. As always, everyone, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, and maybe also click the bell notification icon and check out the Patreon. With that said, the very first thing I want to get into, Abby recently did a video entitled, Do I Think Birth Control is Immoral and Other Spicy Questions from You. I want to look at this video first before I look at the other video. This one specifically... I'm only going to play the part where she talks about birth control because it's the only part of it that I really care about. So let's go ahead and take a play. Doop.
Do you think birth control is moral? Okay, so here's the story with that,
okay,
morality-wise. Because physical-wise, I just don't think it's good for your body. I've tried it. It did not work for me. I put out a video.
So let's stop that one right there. So when we're talking about birth control, we are talking about a variety of things. There's multiple different types of birth control that can be used on an AFAB body. Not just the pill, there's also IUDs and other methods that can be utilized. There's also, once-a-month injections. There's plenty of different ways to do this, and each of them will affect your body differently. Even in pill form, there's multiple different types of birth control that can be used. The biggest type of birth control is when Nakibri uses 50,000 to 1 channel points to get their virginity back by saying birth control is moral, but what I just did isn't. It's true. It's true. You've just gained virginity. Thanks, Nakibri, for redeeming your points for an... Ooh. Ooh. No. The best birth control is abstinence, and people who throw that war word at me will never have sex. Avalon of Babylon, thank you for redeeming your points for an you fucking degen. And Sarah Chikorita, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Owl. Nakibri, why does your mom let you have 2 V cards? But let's talk about some of the other things that can happen with birth control, because it's not just that there's multiple different types that will affect your bodies in different ways. There's also the fact that for some people, they have very irregular flows during menstruation, and that can actually be very dangerous in certain situations. And some types of birth control can actually help a ton with that. It can also help a shit ton with the pain that can come with menstruating. Birth control is different for everyone, because as it is a bundle of hormones, it's going to respond in your body based on how your body responds to hormones. Simply saying, it's not healthy, I know what it does to your body, this is what it did to me, this is what we call anecdotal evidence. Anecdotes are not data. We have data on how effective birth control is and what it does. But let's hear the rest of it.
video a long time ago saying like, it doesn't work for me. If it works for you, that's fine, but it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
That was before I learned that being on the pill can cause early abortions.
Can it? That sounds... no. But let's hear.
It's like a fail-safe built into the pill, is that if an egg does get fertilized, it prevents it from attaching on the uterine wall.
That's not an abortion. That's not an abortion, Abby. That's literally just making it to where the egg just nothing happens. That happens in your body all the time normally. That's not an abortion, Abby.
So I didn't know that for a long time. I just thought that...
You still don't know it now. You believe that now, and you believe that's abortion, Abby.
The birth control pill was fine. It wasn't Plan B. It wasn't like the copper IUD, which does the same thing. It just prevents an egg from implanting onto the wall, a fertilized egg. But the pill, in very fine writing, if you understand how it works, can cause the abortion of a fertilized egg. So I don't think that birth control is moral.
Yeah, because you think it causes abortion. That's not what fucking birth control does. I would not call something that hasn't even developed its first cell. I wouldn't call that an abortion, Abby. I wouldn't call that an abortion. That thing is not... That thing is human in the same way that skin cells I've scraped off the end of my fingertips are human. And that's just not really useful to me. That's not. I'm not even willing to grant that thing personhood. And I'm typically willing to grant a fetus personhood from as early as physically possible.
I think that there are a lot of other better, healthier methods that are good for your body and don't introduce hormones into your body.
Introducing hormones into your body. This is so vague. This is the type of shit that you hear anti-vaxxers say when they're trying to rail against, standard-ass medication. Introducing hormones into your body. That carries almost no extra information with it. There's people who will get freaked out about that statement, but have no way to really know why they're freaked out about that statement.
And if you actually learn how to use them well, they can have pretty high efficacy rates, but
they won't be as high as the birth control, which is literally the job of the birth control, to have a high efficacy rate. What are those extra methods, Abby? Would you like to tell us some of those? That could be useful.
That's just what I believe. That's
okay.
My spicy answer for the day.
Okay.
Hello.
So, Abby says, don't worry, there are other methods, wink, wink, that have a high efficacy rate, wink, wink, and don't worry, I have them. I know them. They are things I know. Fuck me if I'll tell you, though. Jesus Christ. Abigail Shapiro. A brain is not what Santa gave you for Christmas. All right. So, we're going to speed up this next one so that she sounds a little more like her brother, because that's somebody's fetish, I'm sure. Secondly, this video that I'm going to play next is called Obvious Truths I'm Tired of Saying. Can we stop acting like these are controversial? So let's take a listen.
Hello, Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video, where we're going to be talking about obvious truths I'm tired of saying. If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values, and I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell.
No. Do that to my channel instead. I mean, you're watching over here anyway.
And if you haven't already, subscribed to my Substack newsletter where you'll get access to it.
Nope, you're plugging. Go to ddlgplayground.com, use coupon code Suris, 10% off. Go fuck yourself. Dildo, butthole. You can also get a onesie over there, I guess, if you want that. Like, that's probably comfy. I mean, it's getting cold. Coupon code Suris, 10% off. Do that. You feel like a vasectomy would be good. Vasectomies can be reversible, yes, but let's come on, Abby, stop playing.
My discussion thread is really cute. I'm tired of defending, but I'm tired of saying, y'all, these are obvious. We should all know them by now. And I'm so annoyed that it's still controversial when I say them.
Yeah, I'm so tired of saying that, you know, women should have rights to their own bodies. I feel like that should not be controversial. People having rights to their own bodies, that feels like that should be a baseline, a thing that everybody knows and, you know, doesn't have to think about too terribly much. Abby?
So, let's get into today's video.
Let's do this.
Number 1, stop having sex with random people. And by random people, I know this is really not popular, but I'm talking about anyone who you're not married to.
That's not random people. I'm not married to Raz. We've been together 6 years. But that is that a random people? I mean, according to Abby, that's a random people. That is literally a random people. I shouldn't have sex with Raz or any other partner that I end up dating. Just, you know, it's random people. According to Abby. That's completely useless. I will never understand the sex before marriage crowd. And by that I mean this. If you, as an individual, find the idea of your virginity being taken away on your marriage day, then I wholeheartedly, you know, you could do that. Be you. Let your partner know that that's, you know, that's your plan. And I hope that doesn't lead to them, you know, marrying you specifically so that they can get in bed with you and then realizing several years later they didn't want to be with you in that capacity and that they were just really, really thirsty for some poo-tang. I sincerely hope that never happens for anybody, ever. Ever. But in the event that that's not what happens, if you find that idea romantic, by all means, save yourself. I don't think there's an issue with that. However, the minute you tell other people that they need to conform by that same standard, nope. No. The minute you tell people that they do not, they have to conform to your standard when it comes to sex. Thank you for the posture check, Nitros. No, that's stupid. That's like me going over to a couple who is perfectly happy with vanilla sex and me saying, hey, you know, y'all aren't having sex right unless you're using whips and chains. And, you know, here's a magic wand. You should be using that as well. Make sure not to get too close to the nipple. Keep it near the areola. Definitely use these things. You'll love them, but you're not having sex properly if you don't. That would be considered stupid and bullshit, and they would give me funny looks. But magically, when we do the opposite, when we try to tell people and we invade in their sex life in an identical way by saying that you're doing sex wrong if you have sex with somebody who you're not married to, I don't see that as useful. I don't see that as helpful to anybody, and I see literally zero evidence that this is beneficial. At the end of the day, marriage is only as significant as the benefits that come with it. Living with your spouse for multiple years is functionally identical to being married to them. Being with a partner for 6 years and having sex with them is not having sex with a random person. Thank you very much for the hydrate, Staff.
Yes, your boyfriend is a random person because you've not committed yourself to sharing your life with that person.
So yeah, she literally believes that people who have been together for years, living in the same house for years, is fucking random people. This is completely useless advice.
So yes, your boyfriend is random. Anyone who's not your spouse is random. Stop doing it. It's not good for you. It's not good for you mentally. It's not good for you emotionally. It's not good for you physically.
How? How is it not good for you physically? What drains are there physically? Emotionally, how? What is the difference? What is that legal slip of paper change? What is the difference at all? Like, how is it different to you mentally? How is it different to you physically? How is it different to you emotionally? You have to explain these things, Abby. If these are supposed to be obvious things that everybody can get behind and they're not supposed to be controversial, then it should be easy enough for you to explain them.
There's really nothing good about having sex before you're married. The great thing about sex when you're married is that it brings you and your husband closer together. It gives you the opportunity to create a new life. It's a great thing when you're married. But when
Okay, and you know what else it is when you're not married? It's also that, and I mean, if you use so you don't have to have sex to have kids, Abby. Sex has more purposes than that. And if you don't believe that sex has more purposes, sometimes even better purposes, then having kids, then let me know in the comment section below so I can laugh at you for being wrong and stupid and dumb.
When you're not married, it's dumb. Stop doing that. Just stop.
No.
You have to stop.
Number 2, get married. Yeah, getting married is actually better than any other option. If you can get married, get married.
Why? Why should I get the government involved in my relationship? Abby, come on. Why? Why is that a thing that I would want to do?
Now, for those people who have been looking and are having a hard time finding the right person, we're not really talking about that scenario, right? Because they're trying their best to find the right person. But for everyone else who thinks that marriage is just an option, that marriage is okay, or that marriage is actually a worse choice than remaining single, that's stupid. Stop that. It's obvious that marriage is the best option.
Okay, then explain how. Please do it. Explain to me how it's the best. Go ahead, Abby. This should be very easy for you. It's that obvious, right?
You have support. You have a lifelong love. You have lifelong commitment. You can build a family with someone who has promised to stay with you and support that family.
Yeah, and you don't need a marriage slip to do that. I have been in relationships that have gone on for several years without a marriage slip, and I've seen relationships that have gone on for several months with a marriage slip and then been terminated.
You can enjoy the company of someone for the rest of your life. And honestly, getting married makes the world a better place.
How? Explain, Abby. Okay, Joe Schmo down at the coffee shop sees his new flame Loretta, and they want to fuck. So they decide they're going to get married on Tuesday so that they can fuck. As per your advice, they make the promise to stay together because the promise is all that mattered, right? They're together. They now are married for no other reason than they were goddamn horny, and the world is better. How? How? But what happens here? What was the functional mechanism that made the world a better place, Abby? You're gonna have to connect the dots here.
Obviously.
Number 3, have babies. Yes, having babies is actually a good thing. It is the best option. If you can have babies.
How? So, okay. For the human race, as a whole, having babies is a good thing because it allows us to have more humans, which is necessary for things like, I don't know, making sure that you've got a retirement fund for everyone. I'm saying from a purely statistical standpoint, you need there to be people to replace you in the workforce as you get older. Okay, cool. That is not the same thing as saying that everybody individually should be having babies. There are people who should not be parents. There are people out there right now who should not have kids.
Have babies. It's awesome. Number 1, it's fun. But number 2, it's
Is it really? Is it really fun? I've talked to some parents who would say the opposite.
actually a fundamental good to take care of the next generation of people, to grow the next generation of people, and to raise them with good and strong moral values. That's it. I don't know why this is complicated. Yes, having babies is what you should be doing. Traveling the world, having a beautiful...
I need to get... Okay, is she gonna stop? Is Growlithe gonna quit? No?
Full amazing career? Okay, did you have babies? No? Oh, okay, what are you doing?
So wait, if somebody would rather spend their life dedicated to trying to cure cancer, or getting people off of this planet onto another one, or, I don't know, learning better ways to fight the COVID crisis, you're just gonna go, yeah, but are you making babies? Are you make babies? No, baby? No. No. No career, only baby. Only baby. What? Why? How is that the position? How is that the position? I don't understand why it's so important. And she hasn't explained why it's so important. That's the other part. That's the part that astounds me. Not only is she trying to convince us that it is that important, but there's no explaining happening. There's nothing telling us why.
Yes. Yes, I believe these things. Yes. Yes, I'm being serious. And yes, this is obvious, and it should be obvious.
My God, she looks like she's in the middle of a psychological breakdown. Snugglefuzz, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Owl.
Okay, last but not least, men are different than women. Yeah, who could have guessed?
Oh my God.
Men and women are different.
Okay, and who care? Everybody is different. Who cares?
Men and women are very different in many fundamental ways, and that means that men cannot become women and women cannot become men.
Abby, do you know that one of the main things that actually makes men and women different is how our bodies respond to hormones and how they produce them? Did you know that chemically we can alter that? Did you know that the most important part in what makes a person a man or a woman in terms of biology is, in fact, those hormones? And when we change those hormones up, some really awkward and magical things happen. You'd be very surprised. I could show you a picture of a trans man who you would not be able to clock as trans, and I could show you a picture of a trans woman who you would not be able to clock as trans, and I could make sure that neither of them have had surgeries. It's just the hormones for a lot of people. If we were to dial this completely down to biology, which we can't, but if we were to dial this completely down to biology, she's still fucking wrong. However, given that gender is a social construct and you can identify however the fuck you please, she's already wrong on that account. But even if we were to step into her realm of biological essentialism, doesn't matter. Yep, there are cis women who just look like dudes. Like, because their body responds to testosterone better and produces more testosterone than estrogen. Like, that's a thing that happens naturally, Abby. If this is so obvious and non-controversial, then why does literally the science of biology disagree with you?
Not only in our biology, not only in our chromosomes, but also what we are, what we do, who we are, what we want. These are all things that are different between.
Yeah, you just moved from biology to gender. You moved from sex to gender in that conversation. Guess what? As someone who has hung around a decent chunk of trans people, trans men, and trans women, I can tell you that the stereotypes, if I were to just sit there, the stereotypes that I associate more with men, guess what? Those stereotypes tended to be shared more with the trans men than the trans women. You know why? Because it turns out the gender roles that people try to conform to, the ideas, the ways in which we like things, the ways in which we aspire to be, those myopic things, they get picked up by everyone. And when somebody goes, well, I feel more like a girl than like a boy, guess what? They start aspiring more to those myopic things. Not all the time. You always find people who slip through the cracks there. You'll always find people in the middle. You'll always find people who are non-binary, and none of this applies to. But by and large, all of those things we want, you will find that shit in trans people too. Sit down and have conversations with trans people, and you will find that you, A, can't clock them as well as you thought you could, and B, you'll discover that trans women aren't that different from you, especially if they've been out of the closet and on whatever regimen they're going to be on for a decent amount of time, whether that be social, whether that be medical, doesn't matter. You're going to find more similarities than you find differences, unless the only thing you're looking for is those differences.
Between men and women. And yes, there can be crossover. Yes, some women are tomboys. Yes, some men are more feminine. But we're all still men and women, and they're different. Okay,
so you admitted that there is that middle ground there, and then you just blatantly ignored it. You're like, I know there's a middle ground, but fuck it, doesn't matter. Okay, Abby. Okay. Also, when we're talking about gender, we're not just talking about tomboys. I hope everybody knows that. We're talking about people, because like a tomboy, generally speaking, is a girl who identifies as a girl and happens to have a lot of the traits associated with men, either in physicality or in demeanor. Somebody who is trans and a trans man might have those or might not. However, they will end up leaning more towards the gender roles of a dude, or they'll be leaning more towards the physicality because that's the way they want surgeries to go, or that's the way that they want HRT to change their body, or anything. And again, the things I'm describing here do not necessarily apply to everybody. Not... Yeah. That was a terrible feeling. I just had a fly. Just try to fly into my mouth. That was gross. I haven't had that happen for years. That hasn't happened since a long time ago in Florida. That's bringing up some really unpleasant memories. I'm going to move on. Said there are plenty of trans women who would be classified as tomboyish. Yeah. Like, it doesn't... Like, none of this means anything. This is Abby just going, I'm tired of saying these obvious things. Why is nobody agreeing with me? I don't know, Abby. Why does nobody agree with flat earthers? Because it turns out that the things you're saying either are actually controversial or are B, wrong. Awkward. I know.
This is obvious. I'm done. That's it. So those are the 4 things I want to talk about today. We're just keeping it short and sweet.
You didn't talk about them, though. You just said them and walked away.
Never.
You offered nothing. There was no information. There was nothing gained. There was just you stating a handful of things and then us dunking on you because that's infinitely more fun than the content you actually make. Kooky Buckaroo, thank you for the follow. I hate to sound so scathing, but, like, come on. Abby Shapiro does me an upset. Shebus. I love looking through the comments here. Having children isn't a moral obligation in life. It's not everybody's path. This is controversial not because it's about having babies, but because you have the arrogance and audacity to be telling people what's best for them. Opinions do not equal truths. I feel sad for people raised with these closed-minded ideals. Saying your opinion and exclaiming it's obvious after everyone doesn't make it true. Said she probably likes to make strawman arguments, just a hunch. I mean, that's the majority of her channel. She learned it from her brother. I find it interesting how people like you acted as if marriage is a sacred and unbreakable commitment, when nearly half of all marriages end in divorce. Jesus Christ. It's insane to me that there are people that will actually take what Abby Shapiro says not only seriously, but to heart. I just can't fathom it. I cannot. That said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This is another Abby Shapiro video as typical, and I just do not want. I am so glad I'm Demi, because all of those pictures that people throw up on Twitter like, oh my god, look, Abby Shapiro's boobs, they're so great. Yeah. And her personality is that of a rusted spork. Who cares? As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.